have made it to Stu and the Nunn, an online radio show that looks to inform, educate, and hopefully make you laugh. Stu and the Nunn is a show focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our show chat room, via our Facebook page, and on Twitter. Like to thank those who make this show possible and allow us to bring it to you. Our show sponsors are Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. That's right, everyone. Welcome to another episode. We are rocking it here on June 25th, the last Thursday of June. It is month 6. We are halfway through this Hellacious 2020. And welcome, Toby. See you in the Southern Studio.
Just living my best life down here. Living my best life.
What's happening down there, man? Is my governor just being a tool and trying to block people from Texas now because Texas tried to block people from New York? I mean...
Retaliation's a real thing, man. Retaliation's a real thing.
He blocks like Florida, Alabama, Texas, Utah, like other southern states, and he's
like, hey, which states have balanced budgets? Oh, block them. I don't want that ideology in my state.
Yeah.
But hey, let's get busy tonight because we're running a few minutes late, and we want to be quick with our time because we have one of all-time show favorite, one of the most impactful and influential men in my life, one of my best friends, Chad Robichaux.
Yes.
He's kind of a big deal to some people, not to me, because he's smaller than me. Even though he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I believe like muscle. I believe I got some muscle.
You think that's what it is?
To defend.
I'm glad I'm the only one. I mean, I talked crap about Tim Kennedy a few weeks ago. I'm glad it's not just me that talks crap about our guest that could kill us. So
no, but like Chad's doing some amazing things. So we wanted to have him on the show last week. Unfortunately, due to flight scheduling out of DC, he had to like drop from last week and then push to this week. But welcome to the show, my dude, my brother from another motherland, Chad Robo. He's in the great outdoors in Prescott,
AZ.
Yep.
In the AZ.
Beautiful weather here, as always, at the Mile High City. It's nice out. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, man, good to have you. It's been a while.
Is that like stolen elevation valor? The Mile High City are they like stealing like altitude valor from Denver?
Yeah, I think this was first. I think Denver took it.
Denver's perpetrating stolen altitude valor. That's awesome.
It's the original capital of Arizona. A little bit of history there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I used to live in Arizona a long time ago. That's right. Yeah, I love Prescott. That whole area, Flagstaff, Prescott, anywhere up there, Sedona, you can't go wrong up there.
Where I'm at right now, I'm I'm about a mile away from me. All the national forest starts, so I'm bordering the national forest, and national forest here is just absolutely beautiful. If you're ever in Arizona and want to get out of the desert, come up to the Mile High, come up to Prescott, and there's tons of hiking, climbing, mountain biking, all kind of trails. Just absolutely gorgeous up here.
Yeah.
My friends at Fieldcraft Survival, Mike Glover,
That's right.
Fieldcraft Survival, they're headquartered up there. Awesome dudes, awesome organization.
Good deal.
Yeah, Mike's been on the show once or twice.
Yeah, at least once. Maybe twice.
And then his
Rob will tell us in a second.
Yeah,
St.
and
George.
his right hand man, Raul.
Oh, Raul.
And I have like Raul and I've traveled the world together, or at least part of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, like Raul and I go, all the way back, to a song by Van Halen called Panama. But hey, so let's get everyone up to date. Everyone knows that you're like this world champion MMA guy, black belt in jiu-jitsu, like all that awesome stuff, full time like real operator. Um, but what what have you been up to? Because like you can't do hero shit every day. They can only make so many movies about you. So like, what have you been up to in the last little bit? Why are you on the show?
Mighty Oaks has been just doing amazing. So the success of Mighty Oaks, and by the way, Mighty Oaks on the resiliency side, we've spoken over 150,000 active duty warriors now doing combat resiliency, spiritual resiliency, PTSD awareness, traveling to bases all around the world speaking. And then we in our legacy program, which is our PTSD recovery program, we've had over 4,000 graduates now. Which you remember, you were the first class, Toby. Uh,
I was.
yeah. So now we have 4,000 graduates doing over 30 programs per year at four different ranches around the nation. And we bring all our warriors and active duty, veteran community, and spouses. We bring them to the program. By the way, we doing first responders too now, and pay for everything, including their flights. So as an organization, Mighty Oaks is just crushing it and addressing the suicide epidemic in our veteran community, the struggles with PTSD and things like that. And uh, and so we kind of have been really just blazing a trail in the faith-based veteran service organizations. And we had a last year I got asked to go testify before Congress in the most effective solutions, faith-based being one of the most effective solutions for PTSD. And that really started some relationships in Congress. I went and advised that some of the president's team at the White House, and they asked me to put a loose coalition together of faith-based veteran service organizations, and we did, and that ended up becoming official White House initiative called the FBVSA, Faith-Based Veteran Service Alliance, which is designed to be a group, a coalition of faith-based veteran service organizations that are making the biggest impact in helping to serve our warriors come together and just work together to bring a variety of services to our veterans. I was appointed the chairman of the FBVSA, and through that also working to collaborate with the White House, with Department of Defense, with the VA, and with Congress to make sure that all these organizations, not just faith-based organizations, but all the veteran service organizations, essentially the 43,000 veterans nonprofits out there, have the easiest access to veterans. And this is really important. I don't think a lot of people realize this. I don't even think a lot of VSOs, veteran service organizations, realize how difficult it is to have access to veterans through the VA and access to active duty in the active duty commands. It's something that Mighty Oaks has been very fortunate with. We've been able to tackle this, but we've just been really blessed. It's very difficult, and the reason it's difficult is because there's legislation and laws in place. In 2001, President Bush signed the Opportunity and Faith Initiative, which is an executive order he signed to allow faith-based nonprofits to work with the VA and DoD. And it included other things, but that was one of the things that's most important to me. In 2009, President Obama signed an executive order that overturned that, and it blockaded any faith-based organizations from working with the VA and DoD, and also any community alternative programs like just mentorship programs and things like that. And it shifted everything to clinical, and that really created a big problem. Everybody talks about 22 and a veteran suicide being 22 a day. How do we get to 22? At the time in 2009, when President Obama signed that executive order, the suicide rate was 16 a day. We rapidly seen from that point on, and no one can directly attribute the reason, but I would believe that the shift to all clinical programs made a jump from 16 a day quickly to 22 a day, and 40% increase, which is horrific. Meanwhile, during this time, billions of dollars are spent standing up 1,500 brand new clinical programs, all of which have obviously failed because the suicide rate only continued to go up. And so, if you remember, Toby, in 2016, when President Trump was campaigning, I had an opportunity. I was asked one of 6 veterans that got to ask him a question, and I said, I could ask him any question I wanted. And the most important question to me, being from my own story of coming back from combat and struggling and falling on my face and having a redemption of my faith with Christ that helped me get back on the path to living the life I live now and the life I believe I was created to live. That personal experience, and then through Mighty Oak, seeing thousands of people impacted by faith solutions to these problems. I thought the most important question that I could ask candidate Trump was, if he became president of the United States, would he allow faith programs to come back into the VA and DoD to be available to our warriors? And he answered yes. Now, he kept talking, and there was a lot of drama around what he kept saying, and I ended up on Bill O'Reilly and a bunch of media trying to defend what he was saying. But I believe one thing, I believe the president's heart at the time as a candidate was to serve our warriors, to give them the best care that they could get. And two, I believed he authentically meant yes, and I followed up on it all this time. And in 2018, President Trump signed that. I'm sorry, in 2019, President Trump signed that executive order, overturned President Obama's executive order, and bring faith-based programs back into the fold. He signed that executive order. He signed the Prevents Act, the president's roadmap to empower veterans and end the national tragedy of veteran suicide. And that yes, to me, seeing him keep his word is historical in the veteran community. No president's ever done anything like this before. I mean, when you look at elections and it's a campaign year, they look at constituents and who's the big voting groups. Veterans is not a big voting group, and so it's not a real popular thing for a campaign. And so he did this in the middle of a campaign year, which just says a lot about his love and care for veterans. And the Prevents bill is to bring the VA, the DoD, and all the veteran service organizations together and a nation together to end the tragedy of veteran suicide. And I'm so thankful that he made it a priority. Last week when I couldn't come on a show, it's because I was in D.C. I got invited. I was one of 20 guests and 30 cabinet members that was invited to the White House to be with the president as he announced this. And so I'll be taking a big role in making sure this actually gets implemented the right way. Secretary Wilkie at the VA has already begun implementation as of January, but a lot of work's to be done because the VA has. I like Secretary Wilkie. I think he's a good guy for the job right now. The VA's a mess. Has been for a long time. One of the biggest things the presidents did was that executive order to do away with the job protection in the VA. And so far, they've terminated 9,000 VA employees because of a lot of people didn't hear about that, but 9,000 employees, fire 9,000 employees because they're not doing a good enough job. I think that says a lot. And so I think we're in for veterans care from the veteran service side, veteran service organization side, like Mighty Oaks, like Veterans Outdoors, the FBVSA, all these organizations, as well as the VA and DoD. I think we're in a good spot right now, and we have a good trajectory headed forward to keep that momentum and be able to provide the very best care that we can give our veterans, but more importantly, give the veterans a choice of what care they want. Do they want clinical? Do they need physical? Do they want community programs, or would they need a spiritual solution? They have the choice.
So, like, I want to rewind a little bit because a couple of things are like really important with the chronological order of how things
have chronology is the word. I think
chronology.
Yeah,
one of the things that the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Mike Mullins, really focused on was he identified the shortcomings between what the DoD and the VA could provide and the needs of the military community, both active and past and veteran. And he went out and worked hard with a plethora of nonprofits to create the Sea of Goodwill to raise money and did a good job, did it earnestly, and really tried to fill some of the gaps that the DoD and the VA were unable to fill. Now, he worked for 2 different presidents, 2 different administrations, and like all that work to create the Sea of Goodwill, the people that were truly answering the call were a lot of these programs, like all the programs you just listed. like Veteran Outdoors, Mighty Oaks, like it goes on, Soldiers Angels, Homes for Hero, like I'll just go on and on. Travis, Tiller, Tunnel to Towers, like all these organizations that were trying to do really good things all got kind of shut off from the program because of that executive order. Right. And, like that was such a big moment because, actions speak louder than words. You can campaign and you can say like, I'm doing this, like he brought in Tammy Duckworth and was like, look, I got this double amputee. She's going to help, Brandon Friedman, Troy's like best friend, like, like brought in all these guys, cause they were supposed to be the brains and, the intelligence behind, and they excluded everyone that was being successful and went with everything that was unsuccessful. Even the VA's own studies say that if you seek help from the VA, you're 70% more likely to kill yourself. Like that's not stat. Good odds.
That's a bad stat.
That's their own study, right? Yeah. And we have this internal memo that says getting help from us will help you kill yourself. Like no, like that's definitely something you don't want to do. And so having the current president of the United States, like take heed, right? To listen and to look and say, hey, it's something that I hear you say all the time. It's one of my favorite things that you say is if what you're doing isn't working, try something else. Yeah. And, like the VA, while it's one of the largest institutions in the United States, is just hell-bent on not changing. Like it's a bunch of protectionists, it's bureaucracy. People are more concerned with tenure than they are concerned with success metrics. Like to them, a success metrics is they don't lose their job. And so like this I think is amazing.
Now they're starting to lose their job, which is equally.
Yeah, well that's the difference. I mean, like I thought former General Shinseki that became Secretary Shinseki was a good choice, because I thought he represented the rank and file of those being serviced by the VA well. He's like, Purple Heart recipient, partial amputee, like he checked a lot of blocks and he tried, but like, that protection is that internal, like I hate using the word deep state, but like that it's real. And so this is something like that the current president, President Trump, has done very well. He is successfully like, you don't fall a tree with one swipe. It takes an axe and you have to resharpen it and you got to strike that wood many times. You got to come at it from different angles so that you can get it to fall the way you want it to fall. And he's been doing that. He's been like taking swipes at it, coming at different angles, resharpening the axe, going back. And so that's what is crucial. Now, that was the first thing. The second thing was when you asked him your question, like one, what a great opportunity to ask a great question. I remember that question, not because it was such a great question. I remember that question because how the media tried to spin it to make it look like he didn't give a crap about anyone that served, and that because he didn't serve, he was not like the right guy. And here we are, like years later, they're still trying to like, shut him down. And yet he's accomplished more in the veteran community than, like Veterans Choice, like all these, I can just go program after program. So like, and now with Prevents, that's awesome. And
I gotta say,
like the fact that they call you the chairman.
I'm the co-chairman. I gotta share it with someone else.
Who do you share with?
Damon Friedman. He's the president founder of the SOF Missions. He's actually just about to retire like this month at 20 years. He's a Marine first, and then he went to Air Force. He smartened up, went to the Air Force. And he's a combat controller. So he's they call it. I forget what they call it. They call it something different when they're an officer. But he's a combat control officer.
Yeah, I gotta say the camera maintenance did a good. I mean, you're a lot clearer now. That helped.
Am I?
it made a difference. I'm like, look at him wiping his camera. It's like, oh, I can see you. I think he has a little bit of that Arizona dust on there.
Like a mom.
No, so yeah, but how is it to be? I mean, what a great opportunity. You know, you've been blessed so many times, and I know you know that. And you know, not only one to get that opportunity to ask him that question back when he was a candidate, but now to have this come full circle, not to just be some pandering lip service, but bringing you back. I saw a couple of pictures I think you put up of the room. I mean, which ironically, I got to say, 1 year ago today, our good friend who's on watching right now, Dave Bellavia, was awarded the Medal of Honor in that room. I couldn't believe it was actually a year ago today, but in that same room, what I recognize, and of course, a lot more spaced out now than it was then. But what an opportunity to be in there with the cabinet members and the other distinguished invitees and guests to come in there and just partake in that event. I wish it would have got more coverage on the media, but it really, really didn't. Any media that I saw.
I was pretty upset about that. By the way, before I tell you how upset it was, I was pretty happy. I got the person a hug.
What's that?
I got to give Ben Carson a hug.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was sitting right next to me, and I was like, "Oh man, I just love that guy. He's amazing." But yeah, I was pretty bummed. They even Fox was covering it for about 5-10 minutes, and then they switched over to Joe Biden's delirious rant about how much he hates Donald Trump and mumbled a bunch of stuff. But I mean, they shifted over from that important historical event for our nation's warriors. I mean, none of I just can't imagine who makes decisions like that, and even on Fox News to do that. I was pretty upset by that, and I put a little video out the next day, kind of ranting about just making sure that people knew what actually happened, because the president did something so historic for our warriors. And I mean, if we can't, some things that are just sacred and should be outside the realm of politics, and if we as a nation can't take care of our warriors who maintain and the freedoms and the liberties that we have in this country, then we're lost, you know. And if we can't put priority on that, and that's what I'm just so thankful this administration did. Look, another thing I didn't mention yet, but the campaign asked me to be a national board member on Veterans Coalition for Trump, and to be a speaker on the campaign, a surrogate speaker on the campaign this year.
Ooh.
And I run a national nonprofit. When you run a nonprofit, you kind of have to really second guess if you want to be involved in campaign and politics. I hate politics, by the way, even though it seems like I'm immersed in it right now. But I thought about it. I have a lot of great people in my life, a lot of wise people in my life that I went and asked for some consultation from. And Alan West, Sergeant Major Kent, Sergeant Major Marine Corps, who's probably doesn't agree with me in everything political, but he's a really wise guy that I'd really trust his advice. And General Boykin, guys like that, people that have been around a while. I sought out their advice, and me and my wife prayed on it, and I said yes. So I joined the campaign. I'm a national board member for Veterans Coalition for Trump, and I'm going to be a speaker in the campaign. I'll be out speaking on veterans policy and some of the issues. And here's the reason why. It's not because I feel like I need to pick a side and get behind President Trump to be president. And it's because I believe in my heart that it is absolutely critical for the sake of our nation that he remains in office. I can't imagine if we would shift from the momentum the country has right now to President Biden. And particularly when we talk about veterans issues and veteran policy, I can speak of that firsthand because I've seen what it was like to run a nonprofit serving veterans under Biden administration. Like, I don't have to guess. I already know. I've seen the executive order signed. I've seen the things that are blocked. I've seen the budget cut in the military. And then I hear all the talking points that people say in campaigns. But like you said, Toby, people talk a lot during campaigns, but it's when you see the action. And for me, I heard what President Trump said in the campaign, and then I seen what he put into action. That very thing that he put into action, the executive orders he signed, the legislation that he's championed, and the bills that have been passed have allowed me personally to serve thousands of warriors. And without President Trump in office right now, without administration right now, we would not be able to serve the thousands of warriors we serve. We'd be still doing what we do, but not in the capacity that we do it. And so I believe that President Trump's actions that he's taken since he's been in office in the veteran community has saved thousands and thousands of veterans' lives. And I think we can be part of that. And we cannot hit the brakes and U-turn in November and go back to a Biden administration. It would be catastrophic for the active duty military and for the veteran community to do that. And so I felt an obligation to jump aboard the campaign and speak the truth about that, not cheerlead a candidate, but talk about the policies that actually matter in people's everyday lives. And there's that beyond the veteran community, there's lots of things that, I mean, when you talk about like criminal justice reform and the new police reform that he signed to put out. I mean, these are things that the country has asked for, America has asked for, and the president has done and is doing, and we just can't go backwards.
Like that's such a good point. How you opened, the sentiment at which you opened your last point was, how valuable the veterans are to our way of life and how we shouldn't forget them or leave them behind. I think we're seeing right now, we're seeing the path we're seeing two roads diverge, right? We're seeing how the veterans are being treated, and we're seeing how that's getting corrected, and we're seeing how that's being improved. But at the same time, we're watching the national dialogue, we're seeing the national narrative take a hard turn the opposite direction to law enforcement. And we wouldn't have the pleasures and the things that we have in life without law and order. And, just like we don't have the freedoms that we have without the veterans that helped earn those freedoms. We don't have the protection of those freedoms without law and order to protect them. And so we're seeing these two roads diverge, and for me, it's exceptionally scary because I don't want to see our law enforcement, treated and put to the wayside and disrespected. And, I think seeing how people treat the veteran, like when I say people, I mean the politicians, how they're viewed and how they're portrayed. If that is how we're combating it on such a small level, the law enforcement community is a much larger level. And it is sad to see how that they're being kind of really disregarded, devalued, discounted. And his attempt, with that police reform was awesome. And unfortunately, it's not going to get the traction that it needs because, people are going to fight it purely on a political level. You said that we shouldn't treat veterans politically. We shouldn't treat law enforcement politically.
You see Tim Scott present it?
Yeah.
I mean, South Carolina, right?
Right, South Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, he presented the police reform bill. This is what everybody's protesting about. It's a black senator from South Carolina, but because he's Republican, they're literally going to stop. And this is some things that a lot of conservatives wouldn't even agree that should be done with the police, but they're probably good things to bring accountability and oversight for the police, make it a lot more difficult for police to do their jobs. But it's the compromise, right? And I thought it was really good, and they shut it down only because it would look good for the president for him to actually solve this problem. Yeah, they'd rather see the country burn down than to see this problem solved.
And that's a testament to it. That's a testament to it right there, because one of their arguments is it doesn't. A couple of their talking points from the left is, well, it doesn't ban chokeholds, it doesn't do this. When every mayor or governor have the ability to pass local ordinance to ban chokeholds. In the city of Buffalo, the mayor did that a couple weeks ago. In a couple other cities, city of Minneapolis, they did it also. So it's amazing how they look at the national government. Everyone always talks about states' rights and all that stuff, and a lot of people give that lip service, but here it's in the local power to do that at the town, county, state level to do some of those things. And yet, because it doesn't mandate it at the national level, they're trying to shoot it down and say it's no good, it can't pass. It's an oxymoron.
National level reform shouldn't have the There's nothing weeds.
No, and a national registry, to expose the info of our law, the personal information, the PII, personal identifiable information of our law enforcement, and put that out there to like an open source records. I mean, does anyone want their info out there? No. We identity theft's real. We try to keep that secret for all that stuff. And you guys know, like I do, a lot of law enforcement that are off social media, that keep all their info hidden. They don't want someone showing up at their front door,
like the greatest crime that you can commit, to that crowd is to dox them. Yet they want to dox like the entire law enforcement community. It's ridiculous. The before we go down that rabbit hole, do you have any commentary on like how that's like how do you think like we're handling this?
Well, first of all, any governor, mayor, any elected official that's had the word defund the police come out of their mouth should be absolutely freaking ashamed of themselves. And I hope and pray daily until election time comes that they are voted out of office because they are malfeasance in their duties to be able to protect the citizens that elected them in. Period. If they're talking about defunding the police, I think it's lip service. It's pandering to the mob, and they know it. They know it's wrong, and they're doing it anyway. I mean, they're under. These are the same people that are under protected security every day, and
yeah.
So it's hypocrisy. It's not only hypocrisy, but it's actually dangerous, and it's a malfeasance of their oath of their duty about to serve and protect the people of their community that they've been voted to do as elected officials.
I laughed out loud, like not just some weird emoji or LOL. Like I physically laughed out loud at the news report of the people complaining in the police-free zone in Seattle about like not being able to get police to respond to help them because they lost control of their mob and there was a shooter or whatever. They're like, well, we need the police. Like, no, like actually you don't. You said you don't. So, usually I feel bad when any human beings like in danger or hurt, but there was like a moment there where I found humor in it and I laughed. And then I was like, all right, well, now I feel bad. I hope no one died. But like,
well, unfortunately, someone did die.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is true.
And that's not okay. Like, that's not okay that these. I mean, I think the mayor and the governor are responsible and they're complicit in that person's death.
Oh, they're absolutely just like all the local
100%,
businesses and the citizens that were stuck living in that zone. Without no safety, being assaulted, being shook down to pay protection money, all that other kind of stuff, which is why today a lot of those businesses filed lawsuits against the mayor and the state because that's what they pay taxes for the government to provide those protections and provide those services. And
they're either voted out of office or removed. They should be removed.
Yes.
Officer. Yeah, I also heard like I didn't see the story, but some legislator was out there protesting with him, and then ended up turning on him and beating him up pretty bad.
That was I think that was in Minneapolis last night.
Yeah.
Yes. Not only that, he's an openly gay Democratic ultra liberal state senator, and he was just taking pictures, and 15 of them beat the crap out of him because he was taking pictures. But that goes right along with tearing down statues of Ulysses S. Grant and other historical figures who helped and were anti-slavery and helped free this country of the terrible stain of slavery. They're just tearing down they don't even or the 54th Regiment, the all-black regiment out of Massachusetts, and defacing their memorial. They don't even know what they're doing. They're just tearing down something to tear it down. I mean, they don't even, which means they're just doing it to be that way. They don't have an agenda. Hey, I think your dog's getting into something back there. I just saw him that dude is standing tall. I just saw him on his hind legs. I'm like, what is that?
Chasing bees.
Oh, well, okay.
You got bit once, it maybe take twice to.
Maybe take twice to teach him that lesson.
Some of us take longer to learn than others, right, Toby?
Keep touching that hot pot.
It takes me at least 5 to 6 hits before I learn to block.
Hey, I wanted to ask another one. I want to kind of move to a quick topic, if it's okay, Toby. Obviously, this, I think you have some connections, Chad, with General Flynn. either personal, direct, or indirect. But I mean, with everything going out now, obviously his case has been going on for a long time. Many people knew it was an injustice, but now you have this higher court ordering this judge to dismiss this. What are your reflections on what's going on, and what do you think the American people's perception of this is? Do they think that this rogue judge is really trying to right a wrong, or are people seeing this for what it is?
I think people are seeing for what it is. I mean, look, General Flynn. I mean, people say, well, he pled guilty. Well, he was extorted in the plea in the pleading guilty. I mean, they put his son on the chopping block. I mean, General Flynn did nothing wrong.
Right.
That the charges not only should be dropped, but I think he deserves a public apology, and he's probably some civil liability for it destroyed his life financially, or ruined his life. I mean, this is a good man who's he's just a good man. I've got to know him personally. He's just a great human being, but even more so, I mean, he dedicated his life to serving our country for over 30 years, and for them to treat him that way. And this was, I don't know if you've seen the statements that came out. Some of it's still redacted, but Joe Biden calling him to use the Logan Act to go after him.
Yeah.
Obama clearing that. This is a political hit job that was directed to the president, and General Flynn was collateral damage to get to the president. And I just hope that it doesn't end with only General Flynn getting cleared. I hope that Attorney General Barr does his job and does it well and does it ruthlessly, and exposes these people, and people have to pay the consequences of this, because if this doesn't get exposed and people aren't held responsible, then I don't think the Americans will ever have confidence in our judicial system again.
I would agree.
I've lost confidence in our judicial system.
Yeah.
And I need something like this to happen to believe in our judicial system again. I think most Americans do as well.
Judicial and our law enforcement. I mean, I think most people, we all realize there's bad apples in all kind of carts, right? Whether there's no job, we always say there's no career that makes you exempt from being a bad person, and you can take advantage of that. But I would say, I think most people feel that, they thought the FBI and some of the intelligence and law enforcement agencies really went in and served the country, because those agencies don't turn over people every time an administration changes. We know people work 20, 30 years through multiple administrations. They're there for the job. And to see that level of bias at the highest levels, even though, yes, the top levels are usually appointed, but to see that level of bias run that deep from the highest level down to key lieutenants in the organization, if you would, is pretty disturbing. Right, and Toby used the term earlier, deep state. It's not just in the intelligence community world. It's deep state in all kind of, whether it's a VA or whether it's it's a number of agencies where people have these hidden agendas, and they're not serving their end customer, which they should have been, which are the citizens of this country, or whoever they're elected for or whatever. But
you have to pull your political. I think with this topic, everyone needs to pull their political glasses off and say, and not look at this. This is Obama versus doing this to Trump. Like, if any administration, including the Trump administration, were to ever weaponize the CIA, the FBI, the NSA to try to persuade a U.S. presidential election, I mean, and get away with it, I mean, that's obviously not okay. It doesn't matter what administration or what party, and it needs to be exposed. It needs to be called out, because I mean, that's just the Star Wars.
Well, and and with the release of these notes, like these handwritten notes from Stroke, and it really, I mean, I feel bad for the president, because I don't think, I don't know the guy, but he's in a position that no other president's ever been in. He's treated like no other president has been treated. Like, I personally think he's duty bound to go after them.
Yeah.
Like, not because like retribution, but he has to right the ship. And I don't envy his position, because, if he tries to right the ship, well, they're going to say that he's doing the exact same thing and it's retribution. It's like you said, like, pull the lens away, pull the political glasses off, and be like, hey, we can't have this. We can't have,
right,
an administration weaponizing institutions against each other, because then all that's going to happen is every 4 years
It's going to happen. Yeah.
Nobody. Country, it's going to go. You know, and all we're going to see is
at some point.
Go back. I remember a time in Iraq where you got like we're no longer under the thumb of the Sunnis. Here we go. Let's get some retribution. We can't be there. We can't be there every 4 years where it's like.
But at some point,
the country will never progress.
Forth. It's just one way because no one ever regains power, and then democracy's gone, and we're Russia.
Yeah,
we're Russia.
Right. No, it's amazing how people want cops held accountable, and they want justice. Right? No justice, no peace. People want clergy held accountable. Right. Everyone wants, and no one looks at those through political. No one looks through political eyes. If you look at the George Floyd case, we talked about it a number of times on the show already. The whole country, if not the whole world, came together and said that was a terrible thing that happened, and there was no excuse for that. No one thought about was that cop a Republican or Democrat, or what was the mayor. It was like, or what was George Floyd. No one cared. It was a terrible thing done to another human being. Everyone always says nobody's above the law, right? No one wants to see their mayor get away with corruption or the governor get away with corruption, even though that happens here in New York all the time. Yeah, that's a different story. They want to see people held accountable. So why would you not hold the highest levels of administration and government agencies accountable, regardless of who put them there? Right? Like you said, take away those lenses. It doesn't matter if they were appointed in the Bush administration, Clinton, Obama, or whatever. They need to be held accountable. Just like the Republican senators, I think it was senators, right before the whole thing kicked in with the COVID, and a couple of them started selling stocks off, right? You know, everyone's saying, hey, that person should be held accountable. Just like Chris Collins here in New York 27, right? Called his son up when he knew the drug trials weren't going through, and his son dumped stock. He dumped stock, then he got charged and prosecuted. So it's amazing how some people can say it's not right, where others say, well, that guy was an appointee by my favorite candidate, so it's okay. I can't believe people really think that way with a clear heart and a clear brain. Anyways, sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, but again, here's the thing: is that's why we can't have flexible standards.
Right.
That's why you need to have rigid standards, and to have rigid standards is Chad's major proponent in my life to why I have rigid standards, and that's because you have to put your faith into something. You have to put your belief into something, so that it is, on the rock, not on the sand. You got to put that foundation. You got to have that rigid standard. So when this happens, you can look beyond the politics. Jeffrey Epstein, perfect example. You can't excuse what the guy did because he made some people some money, and you can't excuse what he did because you don't like who killed him, because he didn't kill himself. You have to have rigid standards. You can't say I'm okay with the doxing of police officers, but I'm not okay with my information being put out. You can't be okay with a pedophile just because he makes good movies. The standard is the standard, and that's not political. And everyone agreed, the cop that killed George Floyd, he didn't meet the standard. I
don't think I've never heard anybody even contest that.
Right.
That was
not once. Not once.
I haven't heard anybody contest
No. It. But it's look, we go back to the good book, right? It was the laws were set there. And how to get to heaven, the process is set, right? It's only through one way, not because you're a good person, not because you donated all kind of money, not because you showed up every Sunday, right? And the laws of out of the 10 Commandments are set. There's no variance in those, and those really drive everything, whether people want to admit it or not, atheists and all that stuff. Those laws are the foundation of this country and most Westerns or most civilized societies, and they drive the laws of those societies, right? And it's amazing how people now can be so jaded to swing one way or the other. You talked about it's selective compliance. My old company commander, now General Abrams over in Korea, he was the one that first taught me that term, and I've used it my entire career. Selective compliance, complying with the rules just when they benefit you, right? And Yeah, I can't believe. So I want to know, Chad, how are you as you go on to this prevents program, and there, man, you got a lot going on, and now you're on with a campaign. Obviously, you must not have had much to do. You must have been bored because you seem to have signed up for a lot lately.
Toby knows a saying that I have. Sometimes you have to say no to the good things to say yes to the best things. Fortunately, there's a lot of best things around right now. I'm saying yes to, and no, I mean, I tell you what, like I cannot do what I'm able to do right now. Being on a campaign, helping ambassador this prevents task force, being a chairman for the FBVSA, and still the founder Mighty Oaks, and doing the fundraising and relationship building for Mighty Oaks with commands and things like that. I could not do any of those things if it wasn't for just being surrounded with amazing people. I have an incredible team. We have over 60 people in our staff at Mighty Oaks now, full and part time. Toby remembers when it was just me and Kathy, me and my wife, and
Yeah.
60 people. I have Jeremy's our executive director. We just hired a chief operating officer. We have a national development director. We have all these like people, the program director and operations manager, and like it's just incredible. And I wake up every morning and I don't have to worry about the little details in every day. I can focus on the big picture things. And right now, for me, the biggest picture thing right now is to ensure that we can still serve our warriors the way we do. And being on a campaign is me doing my part to make sure that we're going to have an administration, the president that's going to allow us to keep the policies that we're just getting in place now in order to both have access to serve our active duty warriors and our veterans in the veteran community, have the something like prevents out, have the money coming in, the government funds coming in to go to our warriors, have the choice programs and not be the veterans not be restricted to clinical programs. Those are very important things that places for me to invest my time. And so that's kind of how I just prioritize. That's there's saying, I'm sure you guys probably heard it before. Don't do a job that other people could do. Um, the funnest job in Mighty Oaks, the funnest job that I could do possibly with my life right now is being a team leader of those programs, sitting in the trenches with those warriors. But there's other great guys that can do it too, and so I need to let them do that and me focus on the big picture things. Make sure that they have the fuel and the gas tank, the fundraising to run the machine, and bring in the funds for the program and provide the access. And part of the access right now is making sure that we have the right administration in office and the right laws and legislations in place.
Now, policy is such a overlooked thing. Everyone just assumes that the right things get put on paper and the right people raise their hands and push the right button that they're supposed to push, and like that's not how it works.
Oh, they're like, I heard that candidate give a speech. I really like that guy. It seems like such a nice guy, right? I don't know how he likes about and then they vote for the person and they don't look at the policies.
Yeah.
I've had people argue, as soon as I announced, I knew this was coming. As soon as I announced I'd be in a campaign, the hate mail came in, right? And I'm like, I get it. You don't like Donald Trump. A lot of people obviously don't like Donald Trump. You hear about it every day. But I mean, to me, but personally, I do like him personally, but a lot of people don't. But even if I didn't like him, I would still be campaigning for him because the policies, like I'm not going to pick the president of the United States off of the way somebody looks or the way they talk. I'm going to pick the president of the United States based on the policies that align with the things that I believe in. And I don't understand how people could in this country right now could either one, not vote at a time like this. And whichever way you vote, you should be voting. And two, not take the time to look at the policies that are going to be in place under the administration. I mean, it's not very difficult. You find 5 things that you really believe in, and look at where that candidate aligns, which candidate best aligns with you, and to pick that candidate. Even if it's not Donald Trump, pick the candidate that aligns with the things you believe in. I can't understand how, how people could allow someone to be president and then decide after they complain after, like you said, about a policy or something, or it's not just.
Well, I think we need to bring back Schoolhouse Rock because people just like a lot of people don't understand that it's not a popularity contest that affects policy. Like they need to hear I'm just a bill. They need to kind of go back and get those Sesame Street level lessons in, civil, in the civil process. They need to kind of learn how the process works, and that way when they don't like something, they actually know where to like look to. They know who to talk to. Like a lot of people have no idea like that they can talk to their representative, and if they're a constituent, like that they're supposed to talk to you. But the I know we're running short on time, but there's one more thing.
Let me just say one thing. Let me say one thing really. I gotta say it. Just imagine if everybody, and I know it's not possible, it's fantasy for me, but imagine all these millions of people out there protesting, right? Burning down buildings and stuff. They just pause for a second, said, okay, what are we fighting over? We're fighting over, we don't feel, justice and equality. If they just looked at the two candidates in the policy, looked at the record of Joe Biden and looked at the record of Donald Trump, what conclusion, educated, like take the bias out, educated, like look at what the two did. Who would those million people vote for? They would have to, if they did it on policy, they have to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The criminal justice reform alone.
Yeah, like he swayed Kim Kardashian and like her husband.
The criminal justice reform alone.
Yeah.
The criminal justice reform, what he's done for the jobs and the job ratings for all the different demographics, and what he's done to embrace folks and not to just support the same, even though people like to say it's only for big companies and big policies. Hey, before this whole COVID, thank goodness it was him, and when this COVID thing hit, because the economy was so strong, we've been able to last as long as we have. We've taken some hits, but the market's bouncing back and companies are coming back and everything like that. Thank goodness our unemployment rate was so low when this happened. If it would have been what it was under the previous administration, we wouldn't have been able to absorb the hits we've had.
No, exactly.
With
the black communities, lowest black unemployment rate in history. The things he's done for getting criminal justice reform for the black colleges. Hispanic women unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, all record lows. Pause a minute from the chaos and look at the policies, people.
Yeah.
No, but it also shows how powerful the media is, because one of the very first things he did, one of his first acts as the president of the United States, was to protect the funding and the future of historically black colleges.
Yeah.
But they're like, he's a white supremacist. He hates black people. It's like
he's the worst racist ever.
Worst racist. He's the first president to protect Martin Luther King's family home and make it a national treasure and a landmark. How many presidents since the middle of the 50s and 60s had the opportunity? The middle of the 1960s had the opportunity to protect Dr. Martin Luther King's home as a national landmark, because of the impact that one man had on our nation.
Yeah. That's why people
Mark Twain's house has been protected, but it took President Trump, the biggest racist in the history of racists, to protect that house. Now, that's but he definitely does not get a fair shake. The spin is ridiculous. But before we go, I know we're running out of time. I want to ask you one more question. And I don't even know if we're even allowed to talk about it. But is it true that your best-selling book, Unfair Advantage, is going to be more than just a book?
Yes. Broad Street Publishing has picked it up to publish it and add a study to the back. So we've already authored a study. A study is going to go in the back. There's a video study series to go with it, and Broad Street's going to do a publishing release on October 10th, and so it'll be re-released. The front cover will have the president endorse the book. So the front cover of the president's endorsement.
Oh man,
nice little touch to it. And then the study will be in the back, and a free link to the video series, all free with the purchase of the book. So I'm hoping people that already bought the book will buy it again to get the study and access to the free videos, and that we could sell a lot more copies. Obviously, everything I do with my books and everything go to help get warriors into mighty oaks. And so keep an eye out on all of my social platforms. And in October, we'll be launching that. Be partnering with Broad Street Publishing for the release. And I just signed another deal with another book to go along with the film with Thomas Nelson. So I just signed a book deal with Thomas Nelson Books.
Oh, you said film. What film are you referencing?
The Life Story movie.
That's what Toby's trying to pull out of you. He's like,
I was like, he dodged he dodged the question in the beginning. I was like, man, he's really good. He jumped right in with his on October the 10th.
You were going there anyway, right? The movie.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I don't know if we were allowed to talk about it, but
yeah, we are. I mean, they already announced it. LD Entertainment, Lionsgate's going to be the distributor, but Hollywood's still shut down. So they were already supposed to be in the beginning stages of production, but Hollywood is still shut down because of COVID. And none of the unions are allowed them to work. So.
Well,
so that's coming
it's
now.
A real and scary thing for the
Kevin
unions.
Hart has already said yes to playing me.
Yeah.
You're running around Afghanistan screaming. Ah!
That's probably a closer fit than because he's not The Rock. I mean, if they could put The Rock in Kevin Hart's body,
that's what I was like. I was just gonna start making jokes because I remember Black Hawk Down, right? Eversman was played by Josh Hartnett, and then when I was at ANOC, Eversman came and gave a speech, right? And in my mind when he BNOC, when I was in BNOC, when he came into Building 4 in this little room that we were in, and he goes to give this deliver a message kind of deal, and they said, hey, we're gonna have Eversman come in and talk to y'all today. And I was like, oh, cool. And in my mind, I was like, man, Josh Hartnett's going to be walking through the door. And then it was like, oh, he's not quite as handsome as he was portrayed on the silver screen. And then, in my mind, I was like, so who are they going to get, who are they going to get to improve the look of Robo? Already a handsome guy. So I'm like, when it comes to looks, well, they're gonna find someone compatible, but in my mind, I'm like, they're gonna find a giant. I was like, is Brock Lesnar gonna play Chad Robichaux? It's got to be some larger than The Rock, someone just yoked up, what weight class were you world champion at? 135. When I was a bantamweight.
They could go John Cena. They could maybe go John Cena, get a little bit closer. I don't know.
Thomas Nelson, we signed a contract with them for the HarperCollins Thomas Nelson for the book to go. It's gonna be more of a family book. It'll be like a, I don't want to say the title yet because I don't know if I'm supposed to, but obviously they're an incredible publisher, and I'm very excited to work with both them and Broad Street on an Unfair Advantage. And also we're doing a partner on in 2001. It's already written 365-day military devotional called Behind the Lines. That's coming out.
I love it.
Myself and Adam.
I love it.
Already authored it. So.
Man, now that is newsworthy right there.
Yeah.
I got where's my man at? I know I got him in the chat room. My old chaplain. Derek Gooding is, I think he's still tuned in, or he was in the chat room earlier. Him and I were talking about how the military, just the other day we were talking about how the military just need more support internally, and that kind of devotional is really good. I like hearing that, man. That's awesome. Also in the chat room is a comment.
We got time for a quick story about it. So Adam Davis, incredible author. He just partnered with Lieutenant Colonel Grossman and wrote on spiritual combat. But he wrote this devotional for policemen called Behind the Badge, and Broad Street Publishing said they sold I think 70,000 copies. So they said this is a really good book. We should do it for military. And Adam Davis didn't feel comfortable with the military dialogue, so they partnered with me and brought me on as a co-author. And so essentially, my job was to go through every day of the year and just edit the text to change the stories to military stories. And so I pretty much, authored, but it was kind of like a heavy editing job with adding some military stories. But there was one day in the year, and the whole time I'm writing, I'm like, I want my one day to write my story, and I got Veterans Day, and so you'll definitely know I put my stamp on it. Someone gets shot in the face on Veterans Day in the devotional,
and that's yours.
Love it. Love it.
Nice. Well, we got a lot. Get in. Like I said, you've got. You're definitely not too busy. You got too much going on. But man, movies and books and devotionals and videos and campaigns and the prevents program, which I'm really excited to see what happens there, because I know you don't sign up to anything to go half stepping, and I know when you commit to something, it's going to happen. So
it's got a lot of government stuff in it. To be honest with you, I'm saying that in a positive way. It's very regimented, but it's also very broad, and so I really play my role. I intend to be an implementer. Like I want as much as they allow me to implement these things and make it. And I'm thankful they allow me to be part of it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That is phenomenal. Well, hey, Chad, appreciate it so much for you coming on. You gave us the full hour plus. It's been a while, but it's good catching up with you. And boy, it went by quick because you just had a lot to cover. And taking some time out of your very, very busy life in beautiful Arizona there and spend time with us. So thank you so much, man. I know
there's a mountain behind me. As soon as we get off, I'm going run either run or climb it or something.
Do something to that mountain. That's what I'm talking about. Toby, you got anything else before we let Chad go?
Well, why don't you move that mountain, and then that's it, my man. Like, appreciate you coming on. Glad that you were able to, we were able to reschedule things so we can get you on. Congrats. You are the right guy out there, because I know your heart. I remember that phone call like it was yesterday. I remember 2 phone calls like they were yesterday, but you're the right guy, and I'm so grateful. I was on the phone with a heartbroken father this morning because of what's going on with his son. We were able to get him, applied online, and we were able to, talk to Brandon and the team there and get him like some emergency help and, get him set up for a program here. So like you guys are doing awesome things. I see it every day. I feel it every day, because of the impact it's had on me and the impact that we carry through with Veteran Outdoors as a result of that. So, man, appreciate you, love you. I'm still married, so like you played a major role on that. So you my dude forever, my brother.
Yeah, love you, bro. Any veterans out there need help, struggling? All of our stuff's free. All of the programs are free. All of our resources are free. MightyOaksPrograms.org. Anybody wants to support it, and because it's not actually free, if anybody wants to support it,
it's free to them.
Yeah.
It's free to them. It's not free to me. So help me out and make it happen. America's such a grateful nation and does make it happen. So I appreciate everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Love you guys. God
All
bless.
right, man. Take it easy. God bless. Thanks, Chad. All right, everybody. There we go. Mr. Chad Robo himself. And hold on a second. Let me do my stuff here. Get everything done. Toby, do you want anything you want to cover before we go?
No, we were saying before we logged on. There's kind of a big event tonight, and there's a town hall. So I know we want to kind of let people go listen to that because I think it's an important one. It's one of the more important ones I think of the president's presidency. I guess is the word I'm looking for. But no, it was great. People are still like acting a fool, and I'm glad that at least people are just starting to check people on it. And it's sad that it's taking executive orders to help protect statues.
Yeah.
It's sad that it's taking executive orders to help protect police and reform things. That's stuff that we should be doing, and we should have the ability to do through civil discourse and through the political process that America is. It's sad that we have the greatest political system in the world and we fail to use it, and we're acting like the mob in Roman times, and it's sad that like political leaders are pandering to such a mob, and like we heard earlier, it's led to death, it's led to violence, it's led to carnage, mayhem. It's ridiculous. But that's all I got. I just want to make sure everyone gets the opportunity to go check it out, mainly because I want to go check it out too. So
yeah, I do want to highlight real quick. I mean, today, like I said, was 1 year ago today when our good friend Dave Bellavia was presented finally after 15 plus years, after the Medal of Honor around his neck, and it started a whirlwind year for him. We're gonna have Dave on soon, back on soon, because we've had him on a ton of times. He's co-hosted, but I want to get him on. We're gonna chat about year one and kind of chat about what his first year was like and see what he'll be willing and able to talk about. But it's been a whirlwind year. It's also today, Toby, another anniversary, 1950. In 1950, on this day, June 25th, the Korean War began. One that is, you and I kind of got, it's kind of near and dear to us. We both served over there.
That's right.
Still, and it's we've talked about that a number of times, and some of the things we've seen in the last couple of years that have been history making. But yeah, it was today in 1950 that North Korea invaded and started what was known as Korean War. So I thought it was another pretty significant date here on this date, June 25th. So with that said, the town hall is going. I think a lot of people want to go watch that and see what the president's talking about, which we've been talking some about with Chad, and we know he is connected in with. So if you got nothing else, Toby, I guess we will let everyone go for the night. All right. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you check out you're going to see it on the scrolling thing, but some of our nonprofits that we're really proud of, right? Hero Labradors, Pinups for Vets, Mighty Oaks, Warrior Foundation, the Lauren F. Bruner, and of course our newest one, Vets for Child Rescue. We still want to keep pushing that. Make sure you go check out Contraland. It is eye-opening and something you don't want to miss. But with that being said, we'll let everyone go. Everyone have a great night. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlist 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.